Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first day, David. The first day of two-day events for preparing your church for VBS. And today we're going to focus on preparing for VBS, the first important step to every good thing. My name is Timothy Cross. I am one of your hosts here for these webinars. I am the Share Faith Media Director, I'm the media director over at the Share Faith brand here at Ministry Brands. And I am joined today by the one and the only David
Choate. Hey, everybody. Great to see you. Super excited to talk VBS. As you know, the theme of this two-day webinar is VBS is not canceled. And so we're really hoping that over the course of the next 2 days, we'll be able to give you guys some really practical tools and tips to take your VBS online, to look at new and creative and different approaches to be successful as we head into the summer months.
Yeah, we are extremely excited. Our goal here at Ministry Brands is we are a brand. We are many brands of technology all coming together to integrate across the board. We are passionate about helping you succeed, especially now in this crazy season that the church is facing. We are all about helping you come out on top, be successful in this season. And that's why we're passionate about these webinars. We're very excited. And in addition to that, we have a ton of resources. Was it 2 weeks ago? I don't know. It all blended together.
It was a blur, man. It was
daily webinars for like 8 days.
But it was good. It was good. Had a fun time.
And we covered so many amazing topics here. And as you can hear, David has an alarm going on in his phone.
Oh my gosh, I'm trying. I am trying right now to shut down my phone. It's ridiculous. All right.
While he's figuring that out, let's talk about these resources. Let's talk about these resources. So all throughout today's webinar, like I mentioned a little earlier, feel free to ask any questions that you have. Now, if we don't get to your question or you need a next step, feel free at any time, just honestly, for any time ever, email questions or whatever it might be to careteam@ministrybrands.com. And then all of the resources, webinars, lots of freebies, a lot of things to kind of help you succeed in the season of the church are available at online.ministrybrands.com. Isn't that right, David?
It is. And I mean, to be fair, Tim, I was getting a message from my wife. And this was critical. This was important stuff. She was telling me that she was going to Chick-fil-A for lunch. And did I want anything? So I want everyone to know that even though everything in me needed to respond, I didn't. I set it aside, and I may miss out on Chick-fil-A.
All right, fine. You get a pass. I think everyone in chat is willing to accept that you get a pass on this one. This time, this one and only. I'm excited to see all the people from all over the country. We have lots of people from different states, Philadelphia, California. We got people for Chick-fil-A does get a pass. Thank you, Wendy. So anyways, we're excited. It's going to be a good webinar. So speaking of today, let's kind of cover, David, what, if you want to touch base,
and real quick,
we're covering today.
I am seeing people ask about how long this session is going to go. Each one of these sessions will be about an hour. We'll have a couple conversations and get into some tech. So let's go to that next slide, and we can just talk through a little bit. Today, we're going to be talking about preparing your VBS. The 2 days are going to be split into two parts. One is going to be preparing your VBS. We'll look at things like onboarding, screening, outreach, managing event registration. And then tomorrow, we're going to talk about presenting your VBS. And in tomorrow's seminar, it'll be an exciting presentation. We'll give you a free day of the Courageous Faith VBS from Share Faith Kids. We're going to give you an online guide to build step-by-step your online VBS. We're going to have a conversation with Yancey from Yancey Ministries, which I am super excited about. And if you want to back up real quick, Tim, I rushed by it, but we're going to have a conversation today with Liz Ross as well. And she's got the title Children's Ministry Veteran, and that's a title that you don't earn easily. So I want to be able to ask her how she got that and kind of have a good conversation with her about her experience.
Yeah. Our goal with these webinars is to give you practical advice and then big picture advice. Like, here's the big picture, and that's what we're going to touch base on with Liz. She's, as you pointed out, a children's ministry veteran. I'm curious to know how she got that title. But then in addition to that, we're going to bring Casey on and then just go over some practical things that you guys can leave today with the webinar, leaving today with some tools in your hands, ready to take on VBS, preparing VBS. So it's going to be good. So with all that being said, there's a lot to cover, but with that being said, let's bring on Liz, who is the veteran, and she's going to kind of talk a little bit about herself. We got some questions, yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah, so I guess right out of the gates, Liz, what does it take for someone to earn the title children's ministry veteran?
Important questions.
How many tours of duty did you do there?
Wow. Okay, so a lot of tours of duty, actually. I was a children's minister or children's ministry team leader for about 6 churches in about 4 states. That's a little fuzzy. We've moved a lot. Most of those were ministry-related moves. And so, yeah, I think and it lasted for about 22 years. So I think once you give 22 years to children's ministry, you get the privilege of being.
I believe it. 22 years of survival is what I heard. I've survived 22 years in kids ministry. That makes you a veteran, 100%. I'm pretty sure the cutoff though is like if you survive 1 year, 6 months, 4 months, 3 months, 2. You survive a weekend in kids ministry.
No, you don't get veteran status for a weekend, man. I guess for everyone that's tuned in, give us a sense of the different size of the ministries that you are a part of, because I'm sure we got people from all different, mega churches to they are the kids pastor and everything else.
Sure. So my very first children's ministry was, I'm trying to think, it gets a little confusing. It was a church of about 150. I had to volunteer to be the children's minister so that I could prove to them how much they needed a children's minister. And so I went and did the job of children's ministry from birth to about 5th grade, free of charge, and just so that I could prove to all the powers that be at that church that they really needed a children's minister. It was a long time ago, and so children's ministry wasn't that prevalent. You didn't see churches. You had the youth minister, and you had some people who led VBS once a year. But as far as just having a full-time or even part-time children's minister, it was unheard of. And so from there, I went to another church that I was just there on weekends and 1 night a week. Because I was traveling from Cincinnati to Kentucky, to Lexington, Kentucky, just to lead a children's ministry there. Again, it was sort of a proving ground that children's ministry was very important. So for, I think, the first 3 churches that I worked in, I was the first children's minister they had ever had.
Oh, wow.
Would you say, so I love that. And then what was so those are where you kind of got your start. And then what's the biggest ministry that you've been a part of as far as overseeing kids ministry and all that?
So it's the largest church was the last church I was a part of, and that was a church in Maryland. And that church at the time was running about 5,000 on the weekend in multiple services. And so
you got good experience from very small, maybe rural churches to the big churches. I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that. That's what I like to see, because we have so many churches in ministry brands that we help kind of succeed with our technology, that they're all over, right? They have the smallest churches like you were describing from that first children's ministry that you oversaw to the big churches out there. And I love that. And I really, when we're kind of preparing for these webinars and preparing our people for what we were going to kind of talk on, I love that it's covering kind of that whole gambit. I do enjoy that. So I love that your experience is kind of in that, because that's what people were wondering.
Good.
Yeah, one of your things, like when we were talking before we came on live here, your areas that you're most passionate about is team building and volunteers. And I know that is, all of us who have been involved in a VBS or a summer camp or kids ministry know that without volunteers, it just doesn't work. So I'd love to hear some of your perspective on building a team, bringing volunteers into that team, what you look for, just any kind of guidance or things that you've learned over your years of ministry.
Sure. I think you honestly cannot downplay how careful you need to be with your volunteers. And I say that from a couple of perspectives. One, volunteers need to be treated so well. This is an unpaid giving of their time when a lot of people don't have a lot of time to give. And so they're working a lot of times and then giving that extra to the church. And so I think cultivating volunteers takes a lot of time. It first starts with a really good vision. You have to have a vision for what you want to do. And I love the whole idea of VBS. VBS is a vision. I mean, it's used for a lot of different purposes. It's either a training tool for the children that are inside of the church that's hosting it, or it's an outreach tool. And so you have to be really clear about what that vision is and what you're leading people to. And then as you roll that vision out, you have to be so careful with your volunteers that you're not running so far ahead of them that because you're excited, the person leading VBS has to have this emotion and passion and adrenaline that's just going to drive this thing. But if you're going too fast and you're not bringing those volunteers along and cultivating them in this vision, then you're going to turn around and there's nobody behind you. You're running too fast. You're going too far. And so I think, so developing those volunteers along the way, and it starts with little things, just pointing out what you see in people, getting to know people. It's in a smaller church, that's a little easier. In a bigger church, that's why the whole idea of teamwork is so important. Developing teams of people and developing leaders. And so looking for those qualities in people as you engage with them week in, week out. Some people have never had anybody tap into a leader quality before. And so when you say to someone, wow, I could really see you doing a great job leading the nursery ministry, for instance, all of a sudden you're building something, you're calling something up out of someone that maybe someone's never done before. So team building to me is essential.
Yeah.
I don't care how big the church is, it's essential.
I love that. I mean, you can't do it without a team. You could try, but I'm pretty sure the kids would eat you alive. I think what I love about what you said so much is it really hit on taking the time to personally develop your team and the volunteers and invest into them. It almost sounded like to me, maybe I was just hearing it through my lens, but it almost sounded to me like one of the most important things that you can do to have a successful VBS is to invest into your team, your kids ministry team, and all of your volunteers. If there's anything that you can do to kind of prepare, like one of the most important things that you can do is build that investment and reach out. Would that be what would you say about that?
I would say you're absolutely right. And the thing about VBS is it's a great place for people to try out ministry. It's a short program. You have some volunteers who work, they're every week, they're in there, they're doing their thing. VBS is a great place to just try out people, to just say, hey, you've never really led a group of kids before, but this is only going to last from this time to this time. It's only a week long. You can do this. And you sort of, you kind of can build that confidence in them for a short term. And then possibly if there is something there that I think it's important for people to have a kind of a trial for that. So yeah. I think that's a really good thing.
And I love that because that kind of leads into, and David, you might be jumping, we might be on the same wavelength.
Hey, hang on. Before we jump there, I do want to say for everyone watching, there's a really good practical thing in there. And I think it's this, to your point, we cannot overestimate the importance of communicating when it comes to an online VBS and communicating the vision. And sometimes when we're trying something new, I love that idea that you said of running ahead in our own mind and we've got this figured out or we've got a plan. And if we haven't clearly said, this is what we're doing for VBS Online. This is our approach. This is our goal. It's very hard for people to get on board and to follow. And so sometimes we can jump into the resources and the how and the what, and not say this is what we're doing. This is the vision behind it. And so I think that's a really important point, and something that if you're watching and you haven't really just laid it out on paper, the vision of an online VBS, what you're trying to do, how you're going to do it, that is a very important first step. And then to be communicating that.
Absolutely.
And I think on that point, you had mentioned like the importance of communication in team building and in leadership. And so maybe you could just share some thoughts and perspectives on that for us as well.
Sure. So right now you feel challenged as a church on how you can communicate. But there really are so many resources that just really can help everyone to feel more connected, whether it's just the old-fashioned telephone or text messages or phone or emails. You can do a whole lot of things. But I think you have to have when you sit down and you're talking and thinking about your VBS program, you've got to come up with a communication plan. And this is whether you're doing a virtual VBS or whether you're doing an in-person VBS. You've got to have a communication plan. And I'm not even talking about the publicizing of it. I'm talking about the actual getting your teams together, talking through, brainstorming, encouraging one another, praying ahead of time for what's going to come along with every day of your VBS. And so I think daily, I think as you're leading up to VBS, your communication can be more spread out. And so maybe you're talking about, if you're months away, you're talking about once every couple of weeks. As you get closer, you're talking about a weekly communication, and whether that is a detailed email that goes out, or whether that's a virtual meeting that you're holding by Zoom or something else, but you're actually talking with everyone involved. And then as it gets closer, you can start, as the person leading that VBS, sending out just short text or short emails that have some of the reminders that people need. Or maybe just one day you just send out something that says, I'm praying for you as you prepare. And so communication is another way of cultivating good volunteers, or not good's the wrong word, but just volunteers who are going to be able to step up and do the ministry before them.
Yeah. I love what you were talking about there. We actually got one of the questions. It was interesting. I kind of like flagged it there because it always just kind of stood out to me. It's from Matthew, and he's asking, the community he ministers in is very limited. They have very limited Wi-Fi and computer access, no school, library, etc. And then his question is what is the most effective way to advertise or to get the word out? And I think you kind of touched on it a little bit. It's word of mouth. Like it's word of mouth from volunteers, from the church, and maybe even to the point where you're just sending text messages to people. Like I really like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you use whatever you have. And, all of these technological capabilities we have should just be viewed as tools in our church to make ministry not only easier, but really to more far-reaching. And so like I said, whether it's a phone that you have where you can send text messages or literally just call people, or it's your website, or it's your church management system that can actually send out emails in mass form, whatever it is, you have to just see those tools as something you can leverage to help take the task and the burden of all this administration off of you, but also to get the word out to the people that need to know about.
Yeah, and I've even seen yard signs, like people in churches handed out yard signs, and then the families in their front yard just put a yard sign in, advertising what it was coming up. So really good. Let's kind of jump back into that volunteer, because you mentioned something I want to dive in a little bit further into it. And it's this idea of onboarding volunteers. Specifically, what would your approach be to onboard and screen volunteers? Things like, what would you look for in a new volunteer, and maybe what would be some red flags that would stand out to you when you're looking for volunteers, kind of for this team to support VBS?
Sure. So onboarding volunteers is so important, and I think you have to have a volunteer application. It's just essential, because you can ask some questions there that you need to know about people. I think you can have a modified. I know when I was in children's ministry, especially at the larger churches, we had multiple page applications, and you could also do it online. But I think for VBS, you can condense that to a smaller amount of information, not the important information that you need to know about those folks, but I think you can condense that, because you are kind of using this in some ways as a ramp onto children's ministry, or ramp into children's ministry. And so I would definitely say, if you can do either some type of a phone call after they fill out their application, you just need, for me, I just needed to always talk to someone. Most of the time I did those in person, and we sat down and we talked about what why they wanted to do children's ministry, what they wanted to accomplish, kind of what their motivation was, those kind of things. And I used the application as a springboard to answer some of those questions, or to actually ask some of those questions. And so I think some of that process needs to be the very same thing. Red flags, that's a tough one. I mean, obviously there are some very pointed questions you can ask, and we actually always ask on our application form for children's ministry if they'd ever been convicted of a crime, and those kind of things. And those are some of the things within the legal bounds of churches that you can ask. I think more than anything, the application's not going to throw up as many red flags as the conversation is going to throw up some red flags. And so
yeah, that's one where I was curious. So when you're saying I want to sit down with them face to face and have a conversation about why they want to be involved in kids ministry or their motivations, what would you hear when in that interview, and you'd go, this is going to make a good team member, right? Like, I've been around enough volunteers to know that if this is your heart or mindset, things are going to work well.
I think, well, that's a tough question. So I think
we like to ask tough questions, Liz. That's what we're here for. You're the expert. Teach us.
I think one of the things that you hear is you hear passion in people's voice. If they really have a desire to work with children, it comes across as they're talking about it. I think another thing that you might hear for someone who's going to be a great is their willingness to work with other people. You don't want that lone ranger kind of person who's going to come in and kind of run everything by themselves. You want someone who says, I love collaborating with people. I love getting together and thinking through what would be the very best thing we could do to help children to not only hear the word of God, but to retain the word of God in their hearts. And so I think that's some of the things that I would definitely look for.
Yeah, and something I wanted to mention, because you kind of touched on it a bit, and I wanted to throw this resource out to everyone who is watching this, or everyone who might watch this later. Ministry Brands has an amazing company that's designed to help you protect your ministry. And it's literally called Protect My Ministry. It's a great company. And as we do volunteer applications, as you do these interviews, all of that, what you shared, which was good. And I would even throw in something that you could kind of look at would be, social screening, looking at their social media, see what kind of person they are online, which is kind of telling of who they are too. In addition to the conversation, like you said, you definitely want to make sure you're running those background checks and having that done by an amazing professional team. So we have those resources available. Protect My Ministry. We'll get into more of that a little bit later, but I do want to just throw that in now, because I love everything you're saying, and everything you're sharing is that will that volunteer fit into this ministry, and will they be a good fit? Will they work with the team? I love that you mentioned that, like, we don't want lone wolves. Like, no one wants a lone wolf in their kids ministry that's going to do their own thing. You want everyone to work together and collaborate. And then in addition to that, obviously, you just want to make sure everyone is safe and has been cleared by a background check that's thoroughly checked. And I just want to throw that out there too. You know,
Absolutely.
There's red flags that can be, hey, they passed the background check and everything's great, but they're still not. They should not still be in the kids ministry. They're not a good fit.
Well, and I do think probably more when I was in children's ministry, I rarely had a background check eliminate someone from ministry. In fact, I can only think of 2 times that happened. One of the other things that was a really valuable piece to our application process was references. We would ask for 3 references. And I would say 99% of the time, if I had to exclude someone from ministry, it was based on something that one of the references actually had to share. And so I think having a really good application process is just vital. And even when you're desperate for volunteers, and I hate to use that word, but I was in children's ministry a long time, and you find yourself desperate. Do not skip any of the steps that you know to be best practices, just so that you can fill a room or a role because you need it filled so desperately.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm seeing, I think we've kind of touched on a nerve here with background checks and security, and rightfully so. In our Easter Online webinar series that we did, Tim and I, we had a discussion with the guys and gals from PMM, and they got into a lot of stuff about background checks in this online environment. So our moderators will drop a link to that webinar, and you guys can watch that if you have more specific questions at a later date. And I believe we have some ebook resources that we can share as well. I think we are going to pivot here and get into some of the forums and whatnot. Liz, I did want to ask you, though, maybe just any final thoughts or encouragements, perspectives that you'd want to share with people who are jumping into this world of VBS Online. Anything you'd like to share before we wrap it up?
Sure. I had such good memories thinking, preparing for this, just thinking of all the different types of VBS that I have had the opportunity to be a part of. One was in Kenya. I went and we led a VBS over there for hundreds and hundreds of children. And then we did like an outdoor VBS in that very small church. But I will say probably one of the things I thought about is what is it that makes a VBS memorable? What is it that when a child is 10 years past VBS or even more is going to make them think back and think about that VBS? And it's not anything that a big church can do better than a small church, which is the part that I really want everyone to hear. It's just literally having something unexpected happen so that it is a memory in a child's mind associated and connected to the Word of God. And it can be something very large, or it can be something very small. And I want to share just a quick story, and I promise it'll be quick. One of the most unexpected things that I ever did in a VBS was we had story rooms. And so in one of the story rooms, we actually brought sod in and put it in the room. We had to do a lot of clearance with the custodians in the church. Let me say that ahead of time. And get cleared to put down plastic and then sod. But it was to talk about the story in that room was the Sermon on the Mount, and how that people came and sat on the grass and listened to Jesus speak. And I have to think, because it is such a vivid memory in my mind, that there are children somewhere in the state of Indiana that still remember coming into their normal classroom and sitting on grass to hear about a Bible story. And so that was a very small expense, actually, in the realm of our VBS budget, but it was something unexpected. And so I think if I would just challenge everyone who's planning VBS this year, think outside the box, be creative, bring in something so unexpected that children are going to carry that in their hearts and in their minds, maybe for the rest of their life.
Wow, I love that. Great
Great
perspective.
message.
Thank you so much, Liz, for joining us. It's been an
Sure.
absolute pleasure talking kids ministry, getting the veterans' perspective.
It makes me sound old, but I'll take it. That's okay.
Well, Tim's wanting that title conferred on him after a week. And
Listen, if I survive
No.
one weekend of kids ministry, I feel like I should at least get a title.
That means you're ready for a weekend too. Let's sign
That's
you
right.
up.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you,
great
Liz.
having you.
All right, next we're planning to bring in Casey and jump into just some practical next steps that you can take on kind of just for VBS and preparing your VBS. Isn't that right, David? I know I just stole your thunder. You're about to say something.
Oh, it's great.
I yanked it from you.
I just see here that Casey's title is Church Success Lead. And so I'm wondering, does that mean that you are the world's leader in making churches successful? How do we break down that title? That's impressive.
Yeah, that's it. I successfully lead all the churches. That's all encompassing, just like a veteran, right? Like I did it once.
Wow. All right. See, we got all the guests, all the big names.
No, that we internally we have a success team, and really all that is a team of people who are kind of like coaches and partners for all of our churches and nonprofits and ministries. So not just traditional churches, but an entire success team to help kind of bridge the gap between the back end, like how does this work? How do I utilize this technology based on my ministry's needs? So that's what my team does.
Awesome.
Well, why don't you start walking us through and show us, some of the practical tools that churches can use to kind of take what Liz was sharing and put that into motion.
You bet. So Liz had so many great points about applying for volunteers, how to access these. Sometimes we need warm bodies, right? But we do want to actually evaluate who are all these wonderful humans who want to serve our kids. Are they a good fit? Are they appropriate? Have we done our due diligence? So within our platforms, our giving platform and our church management softwares, with Ministry Brands, you may be in this webinar and have one or more of our products, but either in our giving platforms, which we'll show you all of those later, or our databases, you have access to forms. They are not overwhelming. If I can build them, you can build them, and we have free resources to teach you how to build them, but you have forms. You already have them. So built into your system, you can build, and I say build loosely. We have templates available for you, and with very, very little effort, very little time, and you need next to no expertise in the form building or creation, you can actually build these tools completely for free. So potentially also saving you cost. If you are building forms in any other software that you are paying for, like a subscription service, chances are you already have that, and we can help you not just gain these volunteers, validate their appropriateness of serving at your VBS, but also do it for free. So starting with volunteers, right? You've got this idea for VBS, but you need a team. So within your platform, you can, again, build these super, super easy and customizable volunteer applications or sign-up forms. I also paused a question earlier about what do I need to gather? And I would say that kind of is going to be dependent on your team, but we've already talked about a lot of these. Who are you? How do we reach you? I think of other things like, what are you interested in, right? How many times have we said, oh, just put me where you need me. And then I'm put with the toddlers, and dear Lord, that is not my gifting. And I'm actually really, really great with like high school girls. So what am I passionate about? What area do I really want to serve? What hobbies do I have? If it's VBS, I'm thinking, man, like I love music, but man, I am not a great storyteller, So if we're going to like pair volunteers to really specific tasks, why don't we ask them, what are you good at? What are you passionate about? We did talk about social channels. I do kind of want to really reiterate, there are links in the chat to protection services that do all the checks you need, not just looking at a social media channel and going, this looks like a good person, but the type of checks that are compliant and actually protect you as a ministry. So what are your social media channels so that we can actually do our due diligence and actually validate you as a volunteer? So what information are you gathering? It's what do you need? And then we can use forms to literally drop and drag a name field, an email field. We can build all kinds of cool things like, what is your time schedule? Are you available Monday, 8 to 12? Yes or no. Tuesday, 12 to 5. You know, so all these little fields we can build in free forms, and it's so, so simple. Building in those protection services to that form. And then for those of you who are a smaller staff, you can add managers to your account and limit their permissions. So they're not seeing your financial data or the other background operations of your church. They can just see this one volunteer application form and help you build your team. So for starters, just like from a super practical perspective, using forms that you already have to build custom application forms for your volunteers.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the questions I'm seeing in here that I would like to follow up on is, so we have this practical way to bring, you know, volunteers in, and then people are asking us, so how do we keep our volunteers engaged? And I know that there's ways to communicate and leverage communication. One thing that I would like to say, our church has started doing an online like kids ministry service. And so one of the most meaningful things has been setting up a weekly Zoom meeting with our kids ministry volunteers and going, the most important thing to these kids is you guys having your face and your voice in their lives. And so weekly as a team gathering, discussing how we could do that, how we could either put together a video or do some sort of Zoom meeting, and just going, having a weekly cadence where together as a ministry team, you're talking through this, you're being creative and looking for ways to do it. So I do want to say, I think that's important that you bring the volunteers in, but especially in this time, Liz's point was communication is key. So find that weekly sync and be discussing what ministry looks like.
Totally. And we are going to talk about that here in a minute. Like, we've built these forms, but then what? What are we doing with these people? How are we structuring that? I love Zoom. It's so easy to do breakout sessions. Through all of this, through COVID and stay at home, stay safe, every city is a little bit different, right? So some people are going back, but a little bit. We still have some access. Some people have no access. My biggest thing is, it's through all of this, not, oh my gosh, what do we do? I almost keep saying, what were we doing before? And then how can we just find a slightly different way to still do that? A lot of it is through technology or through a screen. But if you had a small group before, great. Email them, text them, invite them to a private Zoom meeting. Just, hey, how's it going? I miss you guys, as your small group leader, as your age appropriately, of course, but we can still do all of that. Just, we have to think about it a little bit differently.
And I guess on that, one of the things that's so fun about it, to your point, is like our group is, you know, the 80-year-old retired school teachers, and then the teenagers that are involved. And you can see that they're all over on the technology spectrum. You know, like some of the webcams are pointing at the neck and we're like, we can't see you, but you figure it out. And that sense of community and joy stays there. And that, like you're saying, that is the thing. It's not, we need to do something new. We have a community. How do we keep it going?
Exactly.
So anyway.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then when we do get back, it's like we never missed a beat, and we may have found new ways to communicate in spite of it all, you know. So leveraging something as simple as a form. It's not exciting. It's a back end little like drop and drag. But you need to receive a response from someone. Yes, I'm interested. Here's what I'm passionate about. And then you as a staff review that and filter, kind of pre-interview, use Zoom as you need to, use FaceTime, do a little interview, and then plug people into the areas that they should appropriately serve in. And then you've got your team. Right. So Then, if it's okay to shift gears, then let's say we've got our theme, we've got our idea for VBS, we have built our army. You can also use the exact same concept with forms to then build your event registration. So this is more for the kids and the families. Yes, I want to register my 5 children. I don't have 5 children, but if I did, I need to register my 5 kiddos through forms. It's so simple and again, free. You can register your entire family, sign them up for certain sessions with their age groups, their areas of interest. You can pay if there's a cost. You as church staff can allow your registrants to help even cover the processing fee of their registration itself. Gosh, everything that you need to do. And on the screen is a sample of a really simple, here's our sign up form. So I want to register my kiddo to attend virtual VBS. So what information do you need? And then building that into a simple form is a lot easier than you think. So with our tools, every form results in a dedicated URL and an embed code. So kind of skipping ahead a little bit, let's say you know what information to gather, you then publish. So send it off into the internet, turn it on, make it live, publish, and then publicize. And this is that communication piece, right, that we keep talking about. You're going to post that on your website, send it in an e-blast. And if you have our Ministry One app, if you don't, it's included in your giving plan. So on your mobile app for free, your church members can register their kiddo for the event itself. You can build small group sessions in there. They can register for those as well. All of these tools sync together to communicate. Through the app, you can do push notifications, in-app messaging. If you have our CHMS brand, you can also do automated texts and emails. I think this is not my area of expertise. I think you have up to 1,000 messages totally for free, like built into your plan. So keeping people connected, you have all these tools and they just need to be leveraged. And this is exactly where they shine, right? When we can't verbalize something, you can build it, make it available, and just communicate in every possible way you can. Social media, all of those tools are right here. And then we can still pick up the phone. We can absolutely still pick up the phone. Hey, we came to VBS last year. We want to make sure you know we are having it. It's a little different. It's virtual, but we're going to email you the link to register, or go to our website. It's on our VBS tab. Register your kiddo. We can't wait to connect you. You can still use the mail, right? Postcards. You can still do all those things in addition to these digital communication methods.
And maybe we can like talk through a little bit. So I see some of the people like, hey, what form is this? How are we making that, or where is this coming from? And so maybe we can show some of the different, products or resources that allow these forms to be made. And we can just talk through real quick, like, hey, if you have one of these,
yeah,
you can do this.
And something I saw a question, I think it was from Joni, talking about what would be some good fields maybe to have just to start it off. And do we have anything available for that? Like maybe just a template, like, hey, here's a great starting point. Now each VBS will be unique and different, and you'll need to still customize it for your specific ministry, but maybe touch base a little bit on that as well.
Absolutely. First, we do have a totally free, lots of free trainings. We hosted an entire webinar, I want to say in February, just literally having no idea that COVID was right around the corner, showing how to build an event registration. Our team did an amazing job of building templates for you. So you can pick from an event registration, a contact form, prayer request form, alternate donation form. So kind of any category that you could need. They're built in for you. And then exactly to your point, change your logo. Maybe you don't call it, I don't know, every field can be customized. So whatever language is pre-built in there, you can change that to what your ministry calls that. So the template's there for you, and that'll just get you started, save you a lot of clicks. You're gonna need some names, email, phone number, maybe t-shirt size. So all that's there. And then you can go, oh gosh, I need this. How am I gonna do that? Well, we've got the free videos. And again, we've got my team, your success team, who would love, we have a whole bunch of people who just, you say forms and like, let me do it. They get all excited because it's creative. Like, it's literally solving a problem. So tell us what you need to gather, and then we'll show you how to reverse engineer that on a form.
And you want
just
to,
fields.
yeah, I love that. And you want to let everyone know kind of what, where forms are available, what we're talking about here?
Yeah. Do we have, I think then one of the slides coming up has
Oh,
all,
I got you, Casey.
all of our brand
Don't you
names.
worry.
Yeah.
Boom, dropped it.
So if you are here today and you have one of these church management platforms, or I think on the next one we have our giving brands as well. So giving and CHMS, any of these brands on the left side of your screen, when you are logged into your manager portal, on the left, you're going to see a tab that says forms. You already have at least one. Your account came with a giving form, and then click there. If you have never built another form, top right, there's a blue button that says create a new form. Behind that is templates, ready for you to use. And then again, totally free training. Unless I'm crazy, right below forms is resources. Resources will take you into our help center where we've got that free training video. I'm sure we'll link it for you here as well. But that will quite literally show you exactly how to build pretty darn complex forms, including digital signature, file upload, pretty much anything that you might need. So medical authorizations, back to the volunteer, you could use a digital signature to say, yes, I authorize to be background checked. You can do all of that for free in these platforms.
Awesome. You almost could say we were prepared for that question.
Right? So
Just gonna say it.
So you build all your forms, right? You build your volunteer application, your registration, and again, communication. So all of these forms you can publish through, again, your website, through the Ministry One app. If you don't have that, or if you don't know you have it, or you have not used it, all of these tools sync together. So those CHMS brands, your giving brand, your Ministry One app, they all connect and just make life really, really easy. And then you can even do kids check-in. So we're not physically checking in, but once we do go back to church, you can just scan your little barcode when you're ready to drop that kiddo in a real live room with a real live human, not virtual. So be prepared for that too.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into like the communication side and the invitation side and look at some of these upcoming slides and talk about how we communicate with parents, how we make sure that we're promoting and getting people involved in this event.
Yeah, so we've said almost all these tools that we use. One we haven't mentioned is Loom. If you've not used Loom, it is so easy. You can basically record anything on your screen. So if I wanted to build my event registration form, and then I could turn on Loom, and actually my little face would be in the corner, or not. You can turn your camera off if you're not wearing your makeup. And actually, so, hey, parents, it's me, your kid's pastor. Gosh, I miss you, but we are having VBS, and on my screen is your registration form. I can click over to my church website, show them where to find that, and complete a registration visually for them. So when they go, oh, I know how to do this. This is safe and secure, and Pastor Casey showed me how to do it. And send those videos out. They're so easy. So Loom is a great one if you haven't done that. Again, all of your social media, your church website, every form has a link. So it is literally copy paste. Click here to sign up as a volunteer. Click here to register your kiddo for VBS. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, it's great. And then Tim, if you want to jump ahead to the next slide there, because then it gets into a little bit of like, well, how are we going to all gather together? And I do want to answer a question from Kathy. She asked, will tomorrow get into more of the nuts and bolts of how to take an actual VBS online? And 100% yes, that's going to be the focus of tomorrow. We are going to give you a free day of our VBS, Courageous Faith. And so it's a zip bundle with videos, slideshows, activity pages. And then it'll have a script that says you take this video or this slide, and you and your team are going to shoot this video, and we'll walk through how you edit that together, how you assemble it. And then you'll have to decide where that video will live. And so that can be streamed through something like churchstreaming.tv. It can be in-app with the app Ministry One, or you can do it in more of an interactive experience like something with Zoom. But that will be the focus of tomorrow's VBS webinar. And then I don't know if you had anything that you wanted to add in there about Ministry One at all, Casey, or if you felt like my limited explanation was good enough there.
Now, bottom line is Ministry One is included in your plan. So if you don't have a church app, you do. So you do not have to go out and pay for a custom app. You've got it. Again, in your manager portal, in the top right corner, there should be a little symbol that looks like a gear. That goes to your backend settings, and there's a card that says Ministry One Info. Click on that, and then congrats, you have an app. And it connects all of your forms. You just activate them on the Ministry One app side. Say, yes, I want to turn on event registration. Yes, I want to turn on giving. If you have churchstreaming.tv, that integrates right there. You can upload sermon content or kids content through YouTube, Vimeo, or a podcast. Submit prayer requests, submit these volunteer applications, and again, send notifications. So how many times we said communicate, right? So you can push information to every one of your congregants through the app that you already have. So that's amazing. Our leadership, especially during COVID, just said, hey, we want to make this available. It's a connection tool to keep people connected when connection is really difficult right now. And then they said, hey, just let's do this. So it is available in your giving plan and just connects all these great tools from your mobile app.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Casey, and walking us through this. We're going to be looking at the Q&A questions here. Tim, I did want to jump ahead to the next slide real quick and look at like engaging kids online, because I think it's going to get to a lot of questions that are out there. I know there's definitely a group of people who showed up today that are going, I want to know about the back end side of this. I want to know about the forms. I want to know about invitation and some perspective. But I know there's another group that are going, I just practically need to know how to build an online VBS, and I'd like to be walked through that. And so tomorrow we will dive into that. Three of the big principles that are going to be driving this presentation are: one, we want this presentation to be engaging. We want video content that captivates your kids, gets their imaginations going, inspires them. We want our VBS to be interactive. That's one of the great things, is that when you are doing a live VBS in person, there's activities to do, there's games to play. And so it's looking at that and going, how can we pivot and make interactive elements that kids can do at home, but at the same time, don't overburden parents with a lot of extra stuff to do since they've already been doing school at home. And there's a good chunk, I think, that are burnt out. And I think most importantly, we want a VBS online that is personal. And so how do you keep you and your team at the forefront of a virtual VBS? You could go and you could just purchase a pre-recorded VBS from anywhere, but it's not you and your team and the hearts and the voices that the kids love and miss. So tomorrow, that's specifically what we will do. It's not the only way that you can do an online VBS, but it will be a way that you can do it. And so we will give you a step-by-step list. We'll give you a bundle of resources. And then Tim and I will talk together about how you go ahead assembling that to make a great interactive, engaging online VBS. So we will drop links to those resources if you want to explore them today before tomorrow's conversation. And then most importantly, a conversation with Yancey tomorrow. And I know I'm excited about that, Tim.
Yeah, Yancey is a phenomenal minister and does music, fantastic stuff. I'm excited for that conversation as well. And then, I think tomorrow's preview is going to be those next steps, kind of what David was talking about, those practical things and getting your VBS ready for that virtual experience. And we're going to go over that in great detail. And I'm very excited. We hope everyone has enjoyed today's webinar. There is a lot that we can't cover in an hour span, but that's what we're here for. As far as going forward, we have care team at ministrybrands.com available for any kind of questions that you might have, or anything that we can do to help provide answers to you that you can kind of get. And then yeah, David, we're also, do you want to tell the people what we're going to be doing going forward here? I mean, we were asked back. I don't know how we got this. I don't know how or why we were asked back, but we realized and recognized, I think in the 2 weeks leading up to Easter, that there's a great need in the church right now, helping kind of follow up with what good next steps are, or the challenges that we face. And we kind of met as a team here at Ministry Brands and discussed what can we do going forward to empower ministries to help them be successful, not just during this season, but going forward. What technologies can we get, and how can we kind of go about that? So you want to tell them, David?
Yeah, well, for me, my favorite part about what we do here, honestly, is like just watching the chat section and watching people get answers and having fun. I saw one comment in there that talked about Zoom, saying the most important thing is to make sure you do it fully clothed. And I would go, yeah, never assume that you just have to dress from the waist up. That's bad form right there. So there's the humor, there's the real questions, there's people giving advice. And I think at the end of the day, what we're talking about is community. And really, that's what we want to build and be a part of, is just growing a community of people that love the church, that realize the importance that technology can play in advancing the mission of the church, and not trying to come across like we know everything, but we do have our areas of expertise, and we do have, our passion for ministry, and just sharing that and having a conversation. So that to me is exciting. And
most of the time, David, we say stuff, and then we have the real professionals come in and correct what we say.
You and I are
but
I like to say Tim and I are the voice of ignorance on any conversation, and we just, we tee up the other people. But to that point, going forward on May 14th, we're going to be starting a weekly webinar series. Every Thursday, we'll be discussing a different topic. And I guess what's exciting is that our first series of topics will be on reopening church. And I know that is a hot topic right now, and the different groups that I'm a part of that start discussing that topic, it gets pretty feisty pretty quick, and you have a lot of strong opinions. So I'm excited to see where that conversation goes, and some of the different perspectives that we bring to the table. Yep. So again, that'll be starting on May 14th.
Yeah, and I'm excited for that conversation too. And kind of like what you said, it is a hot topic, but the truth is eventually we will be able to go back, and preparing the church for when that happens cannot be overlooked. Like, we need to be prepared in advance whenever that time is for you and for your church. Whenever that moment is right, we want to make sure that we're prepared. So I'm excited for that being the first one. Hopefully I don't catch my foot in my mouth too much on that one. Might happen. I mean, it could. Hey, it happens a lot, actually.
Won't be the first, won't be the last. Who cares? We're the voice of ignorance. That's our angle, right?
It is. And as we kind of wrap up today's webinar, we want to remind everyone that if you need help with your technology, feel free again to email us at careteam@ministrybrands.com, whether it's streaming, church management, forms, kind of like what we talked about today, mobile apps, background checks, online and text giving. Ministry Brands is here to help you succeed and help you be successful. Isn't that right, David? Come on, that was good.
I got nothing to add. Tim Cross, you did great. You let us out great. And I really am looking forward tomorrow to diving into an actual VBS and to start assembling that and talking through, and then hearing your questions. And so if you even in anticipation have some questions that you would like us to come to tomorrow's webinar prepared to answer, go ahead, shoot those to careteam@ministrybrands.com, and we'll make sure that we answer those as we present tomorrow. But yeah, I just look forward to a fun kind of interactive experience where we dig into some VBS and make it happen.
It'll be good. It'll be good. So everyone have a great rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow. Well, not see you because we can't, but you'll see us tomorrow. And that's all I got, David.
I take back what I said about you finishing strong. It just.
Thank you, everyone. We will see you tomorrow for tomorrow's webinar.
See you guys.